Hi, I'm Nancy Blotner. At Caldwell University, we believe that all citizens should be informed about the important issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Northward Center, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the New Jersey Education Association, the Russell Berry Foundation, making a difference, United Airlines, and by Caldwell University. Promotional support provided by Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey and by Jaffe Communications, supporting our state's innovators and changemakers with public relations, creative services, and more.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
There it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to One-on-One with Steve Adubato, One-on-Two today. We are pleased to welcome Patti DiSanto and Mike Strusiak, who are co-managers of something called Team Liberty. This is part of New Jersey Sharing Network, which is an organization we've done a lot of work with in organ and tissue donation. What is Team Liberty, and what does it have to do with a big event coming up in 2020? Look at that setup. Go ahead, what do you got?
Well, Team Liberty is a group of people get together composed of recipients, donors, advocates, plain volunteers that are actually promoting transplantation and the need for more donors to be on the list so we could save more and more lives. So we're making people aware, and we're actually teaching them what transplantation is about and what happens and what's the great benefits of it. And as you know, Steve, the games are coming here in 2020.
Check out Transplant Games. We'll show the website for the Sharing Network. You check it out. That's a national event, no?
Yes, every state in the United States will be here. Even Hawaii and even Australia will be here.
Tell folks your connection, I'm sorry. Tell folks why you're directly involved.
12 years ago on September 12th, I just celebrated my 12th anniversary. I had a pancreas kidney transplant. It was a great gift given to me by Kristen Theresa O'Hara. She died in a car accident 12 years ago, and that's why I'm involved. Every day is a gift from her, and I'm trying to give back to help save other lives.
As it's often referred to, the gift of life.
The gift of life.
You have a powerful story as well.
I do. My son Joe received a heart transplant 13 years ago when he was 12. He's now 25. He's doing great. He experienced graduation from high school, graduation from college. He works. He's out in the world off the payroll, and he's living every day because
you
he
meant
got
off the payroll, meaning off of your
the family payroll.
Yeah.
But he's living every day because somebody saved his life.
You know, for those of you who know what we do, you know that there's a series of programs. Actually, as we do this program, we just aired a back-to-back special from a race that you guys have every year. Check out our website. It'll come up if you want to see that. But what always strikes me, and I recently did a seminar for you and your colleagues on storytelling, on the importance of storytelling and communicating, right? How comfortable are most of the recipients and some donors? I've often talked about my wife as a kidney donor. How comfortable are most people talking about their personal experience?
You know, it's tough. Not everybody is really comfortable, but it makes such an impact. And I think that the more people do it, the more comfortable they get. And a lot of it is based on the response that they get from people that they're sharing their stories with. It really is powerful, being able to get people to understand. Most people aren't really that aware of it because it didn't touch their lives. But once you share a story and you make it, coming down to that personal level, I think people really get it.
And what's interesting is we've often said this, the stats that there are 4,000 people plus waiting right now just in the state of New Jersey, tens of thousands, maybe more, hundreds of thousands in the country waiting for a transplant. For you, the question I'm curious about, Mike, is for you to start telling your story and sharing it with others, was it natural for you?
It was kind of natural because it all started maybe 5 days when I was in intensive care. And they took the tubes out and everything else. And I said to myself, I don't know who this young girl is, but I got to tell the world.
Who gave you the gift of life?
You gave me the gift of life, exactly. who this young girl was, and I have to find out and tell her story with my story and help others. And it became very natural to me to go out and talk. So it was good.
Did you meet her family?
Yes, I did. I met her family actually 6 months after the transplant, which was unheard of.
Describe it, the meeting.
The meeting was here in Edison, New Jersey. I was in touch with them, and they were having a little get-together. The family was from Florida that lived up here, and they came to visit Mr. and Mrs. O'Hara. His brother had a house up here still, and they invited me to come up there. And I went to the front door, and I got a little Hummel angel with blonde hair and blue eyes, because Kristen was blonde hair and blue eyes. And I was at the front door. I rang the doorbell, and Mr. O'Hara came out. He shook my hand, gave me a hug. And the grandmother came in, and it was unbelievable. Like they absorbed me right into the family. And the mother, Agnes, who came to the Rose Parade send-off that I had 2 years ago.
Out in California.
Yep. And she was in the doorway of the kitchen, and she saw me, and she just ran into my arms crying. And we sat there for 2-3 hours talking before they made me dinner, and they wanted to know all about me.
And you wanted to know about them.
And I want to know all about them.
You know, by the way, let's keep putting up the information for people if they want to learn more about organ and tissue donation. Tell folks, Patti, why it's so incredibly important that people learn about it and think about it, because it's not that difficult with your driver's license, the renewing of your driver's license, to do this. Go ahead.
It's not that difficult, and even it's easy to talk to your family about what your wishes are, even if you don't register, but we want more people to register because there's a shortage of organs. You don't know when you're going to be in need, or one of your loved ones or one of your friends. It's not something you ever think about or plan for, but it is so important, because when you're in that position, you really are depending on other people to register to be organ donors.
What did it do for your son? And by the way, what would have happened if that hadn't happened?
So it's everything. It's everything. And it wasn't just my son. He received a second chance, but our whole family received a second chance. And actually, it went beyond our immediate family. It went to our extended family, out to our community. We had a whole community who they donated blood, and they all registered to be organ donors. We raised so much awareness from what was a tragedy for a young woman who donated her heart to my son and also donated other organs.
She made that decision.
She made that decision.
Before that tragedy, that if, in fact, she were to pass, she wanted to give the gift of life.
And she made that decision, and she didn't take it lightly. From the story, we did meet her mother, and she shared the story about her daughter thinking about whether she should be registering to be an organ donor, and her mom had a conversation about it, and it was a conversation that saved my son's life. And we're just so thankful, and it's part of our story now.
The 2020 Transplant Games will be in several locations, including over at the Meadowlands. It matters, doesn't it?
Big time.
Because?
Because it's going to make people aware of what's going on. The games were really started by recipients showing the world how good they're doing and thanking their donors and how well I'm doing. Look, I had a pancreas kidney transplant. You would never know I was sick. It works. It saved my life. I have 4 daughters. I walked 3 of them down the aisle, and I have 7 grandkids.
You have 7 grandkids?
I have 7 grandkids. Okay, that goes like the pyramid. It just keeps spreading the news that, look at Mike. Oh, my God, he's doing so well. And it just saved more and more lives.
And finally, sorry for interrupting you, have about 250, as we do this program in the fall of 2019. The games will be in 2020. How many members on your team right now?
So there's probably over 300 members on our team, but it's growing every single day. They're from New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, from the tri-state area. And like Mike said, there are teams from all across the country who will be coming to New Jersey. I know for us, we've been to the games maybe about 6 or 8 times. They were actually life-changing for our family, because you're there with all these people who are coming from all different backgrounds and different states and different points in their lives, but we all come together sharing this mission, and it was just life-changing and phenomenal, and we want everybody else to come and experience it.
An international event, if you will, in New Jersey, the New Jersey Sharing Network leading the effort, and I assure you we will be there with our crew documenting the event and sharing more stories. So, Mike and Patti, we thank you so much for honoring us with your presence and sending out a powerful message. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
One last thing?
Real quick.
Is there any reason not to be a donor? And I ask that to everybody. There is no reason not to be a donor.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are honored to be joined by a very good friend, Reverend Dr. Buster Soaries, DeForest Buster Soaries, Jr., Senior Pastor, First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, Somerset, New Jersey.
Yes, sir. Good to see you,
friend.
Steve. Good to see you.
This must be a misprint.
What's
because 29 years.
29 years.
You've been doing this.
And you've known me all 29 years.
I sure have. I sure have. And you have led a fascinating life, and you have more important work to do. But let me ask you this. I remember when you took over. I was going to say this parish.
That's right.
This congregation. You have grown it in a way that no one could imagine. Maybe you were the only one. What have been the keys to that?
Very progressive membership. Many people don't realize that a lot of ministers, including Martin Luther King, have great resistance within their congregation relative to their vision. Martin Luther King had to leave his church as a civil rights leader because his membership did not support his leadership when he was in Montgomery.
People don't realize that.
And so the first thing I found at First Baptist was a vibrant membership that wanted to not only grow the church, but wanted the church to be a catalyst for community development. And so I didn't have to fight the congregation when we formed the nonprofits to build housing. I didn't have to fight the congregation when we bought an abandoned warehouse and turned it into a health clinic. The congregation was literally the wind beneath my wings. And so that's the first thing I attributed to.
7,000 members.
Well, I see about 4,000 a month, but we've got, the computer says 7.
Right, okay. But you know, what's interesting, and let me disclose this, I often disclose that we have funders and different people we have relationships with to be fully transparent, but to be fully transparent, Reverend Soaries married my wife, Jennifer, and I.
Right.
At the Newark Club.
Right.
18 years ago.
High class.
I wish the Newark Club was still there. It's interesting. I remember that process. You made us come in. You made us talk seriously about the commitment of marriage.
Yeah.
Your ability to be a spiritual advisor, or your commitment to being a spiritual advisor, are very real for you. Talk about it.
Well, you know, there's a quote in the Bible that says, what difference does it make if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? And it is in your soul that resides your values, your integrity, your ethics, your perspective on right and wrong, how you treat people. And I think to the extent that we fail to nurture the spirit, the soul, we become very materialistic and very achievement-oriented without really focusing on who we are. What is our real identity? Our real identity is inside, not outside.
You and I have also had a lot of conversations about race relations, not just in the state, but in this country. In your opinion, Reverend, where are we today, and how far apart are we?
Yeah, you know, it's tricky. I kind of disagree with a lot of my peers in terms of believing that we really are doing better now in terms of race than we've ever done.
You believe that?
Oh, no question about it. Now, do we have a growing number of incidents that are ugly and mean and racist? Of course. But I think if you look at all the data says that younger people in America really believe, Pew did a study, younger people really believe that interracial marriage is better for the country than older people. And so I just think the media has a tendency to appropriately cover incidents that make race relations look worse than they are.
That we in the media are contributing?
Oh, absolutely.
How so?
There's no question.
Oh, well, if there's, respectfully, Reverend, there's an incident involving a police officer, be he or she white or not, with an African-American young man or an older gentleman, Eric Garner, so many cases, there's so many cases. We need to cover that.
Oh, no question.
Okay,
it's appropriate.
Okay,
media coverage is appropriate.
Okay,
however,
go ahead.
The media coverage, I think, can blur reality to the extent that, I mean, look at all the law enforcement people that never shoot anyone. So I just think that the prominence that media gives to those kinds of incidents obscures the data, and the data will not reinforce the idea that most cops are racist and most whites are racist and that race relations is worse.
You know, when we talk about racial disparities in terms of education and housing and income, et cetera. Your philosophy, as I've always understood it, in large part, beyond government programs, beyond civil rights laws,
Right.
you have argued that there is a deep responsibility on the part of the African American community to try to do for itself when it can.
Well, there's no question. Let's look back 100 years. 100 years ago, in the post-slavery era, African Americans had a passion for education. That passion, in large measure, has been lost. You can't legislate passion. Most of the black colleges were formed right after slavery. And so if a community is going to prosper, there's got to be a cultural, spiritual commitment to certain principles, certain ethics. And that's not just true of African Americans, it's true of the whole country. And so I just think that a lot of what happens systemically is reinforced by people's values. And conversely, when people's values are strong, it really doesn't matter as much what the systems do. Slavery was legal, segregation was legal, but we had Thurgood Marshall, we had
on the Supreme Court,
we had Shirley Chisholm. I mean, we had Adam Clayton Powell
from Harlem.
Martin Luther King had a PhD in his early 20s. So all I'm saying is that no question about it. What I'm saying is that African Americans, like every other group, have got to assume greater responsibility for our own children, for our own education, for our own businesses, because if we don't, no one else will do for us what we fail to do for ourselves.
Do you believe in reparations?
Well, of sorts, yeah. I don't know if the word is the proper word, but I do believe that after over 250 years of working without pay, that society does bear the burden of helping those that were suppressed. I don't know exactly the formula for reparations, but in large measure, we've received a lot of benefits since the 1960s. We don't call them reparations, but we've had poverty programs, we've had Head Start, we've had all kinds of benefits that have been aimed at African Americans. And so I don't think we're without, those benefits.
Reverend, to what degree do you believe President Trump has contributed to race relations and the conversation about race in this country?
Well, I think President Trump has probably made it a bit more comfortable for racists to be expressive.
For racists?
For racists.
White supremacists?
Yeah. And I don't think he gets that. I don't think he really understands the extent to which he has given permission to white supremacists to be bolder than they've been over the last 50 years.
You think he cares?
But
he's done that?
I don't know. I don't know if he cares. He doesn't seem to care. What I'm equally concerned about, however, is what we failed to do in the last 50 years to teach people about each other after the laws were passed. I mean, it's one thing to do legislation that allows for equal rights and access and interaction, but it's something completely different to really help, for instance, white children understand the pain of slavery, black children to understand the pain of Holocaust, to help all children understand the immigrant experience where Eastern Europeans came here and Catholics were suppressed.
That's right.
I just think it's important for all of us to know the whole story.
You believe deeply in empathy, do you not?
Oh,
Trying to
no question.
empathize.
Empathy is when I care so much about your situation that it hurts me that you're hurt. And I believe that. I believe in empathy.
Let me try this. I can try to imagine what your experience has been, but I can't really put myself in your shoes.
Right.
Nor could you put yourself in mine. I'm going to argue that yours have been more difficult shoes to be in, but what does empathy really look like if I can't get in your shoes?
What it means is that I accept your description of how it feels to be in your shoes, and I respond accordingly. So empathy, if I step on your foot and you say that really hurts, I can't argue that it shouldn't hurt. Right. I have to embrace the fact that you believe it hurts and then help you in your prescribed method of alleviating the pain.
Speaking about empathy,
yeah.
You just told me that, and you announced this, that you're stepping down after 30 years in 2020. And you also told me that you don't think you're going to have any problem doing that.
So be empathetic and love me for that.
I love you. I love you
years.
either way. But I sit there and I go, look at this guy. He's got so much more to give.
But I don't have to give it at that address.
Wow. I empathize, but more importantly, I respect you tremendously. And,
well, thank you.
And learn every time you're with us. And my wife and I learned a lot of lessons just from sitting with you and teaching us about marriage.
We had fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
All righty.
That's why I love this show. People like Reverend Soaries. Thanks. We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Dr. Iris Erguder is Director of Integrative Medicine, Holy Name Medical Center. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
So people hear integrative medicine, you say it is?
So integrative medicine is a patient-centered approach. It's combining traditional Western medicine with complementary therapies and wellness practices. It's basically a partnership with the healthcare professional and the patient, where the patient is playing the critical role in their own health, and we are providing education and support to empower them.
So play this out for a second. You make it sound like, I hate to use the word quarterback. Is the patient the quarterback?
The patient is playing the key role.
But okay, devil's advocate. How does the patient know, or how should the patient know what he or she needs? Aren't we like, doctor, heal me, right? But that doesn't always work.
So it's about really getting a thorough assessment, looking at nutrition, looking at lifestyle, looking at diet, stressors, and really trying to customize a plan that is addressing both their emotional and physical needs. But we're partnering with the patient. It's not, dictating the care. It's how can we work together to make change?
So let me play this out for you. Is it fair to say, doctor, that two patients with the same diagnosis could be treated differently depending upon his or her lifestyle, et cetera? Really?
Yes, of course, because everyone's stress is different. Everyone's lifestyle, what kind of work they do, what their eating habits are. If they're active, are they exercising? There's multiple factors that play a role in trying to get them to that path to wellness.
Describe a patient, no names, obviously. There are HIPAA laws. Describe a patient who you've been able to help in this regard.
So if I have someone who's overweight, I don't tell them, oh, in 1 month I want you to lose this many pounds. It's not about aiming to losing the pounds like on the scale. It's more about, okay, how can we partner up together? What things do we have to put in place to try to really customize a plan in the diet or even at the exercise, and really trying to really get them on the right road. So, sometimes it could be, they're not ready to make change. And that's part of assessment, like seeing their ability and willingness to make change. And if they're not ready, that's okay for any particular reason. At that point, providing ongoing education and support to try to empower them, and we set small, manageable goals so that they just get on the path to wellness and improving their health.
Does this require, in part, doctor, that a physician really get to know a patient on a deeper level than what some might think a physician could or should be doing?
Yes, because we're not only treating the symptoms, we're also trying to get to the root cause. So we really have to know the patient. We have to dig a little deeper to really get to know what their nutrition is, what their activity levels are, what their lifestyle is. And it's also building a supportive team. Like, we may need the nutritionist, we may need an acupuncturist, a psychologist. It's
excuse me, you'd bring potentially a psychologist into this?
Yes, it's building a whole team that's going to try to empower the patient, but also to try to get them to change their lifestyle.
It makes so much sense. Well, common sense. But is integrative medicine new?
It's really not new.
We have a name for it now?
Now there's a name for it, yes. It's about trying to incorporate the complementary traditional, it's about incorporating the traditional Western medicine with complementary therapy. So I usually, there's always, people will say, should I pick conventional medicine or integrative medicine? Integrative medicine is incorporating conventional medicine. It's just taking other therapies into consideration as well. And I give an example of, if you have a house on fire, you want to first stop and contain the fire, and then try to look into why did this fire happen in the first place, and try to prevent the next fire. So conventional medicine is really stopping and containing the fire. Integrative medicine is therapies are trying to dig deeper into finding why that happened and what we need to change or implement so that we don't have another fire.
Real quick before I let you go, people who historically will say, just give me a pill. This is so beyond that, right? It just doesn't work, that whole give me a pill.
You know, the pill is going to treat the symptoms, but we still have to dig deeper to find what's really going on that's causing the disease.
Because the pill, could potentially deal with the symptom. Situation comes back. You're trying to do it long term.
Yes, exactly.
Dr. Amar, thank you for joining us. Because I've been hearing about integrative medicine for a long time. By the way, we do in fact have a relationship with Holy Name, a big supporter of what we do on public television. I want to thank you for talking about integrative medicine and just in such a practical and pragmatic way. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Steve.
This is One-on-One. See you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PSE&G, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Northward Center, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the New Jersey Education Association, the Russell Berry Foundation, United Airlines, and by Caldwell University. Promotional support provided by Commerce and Industry Association of New Jersey and by Jaffe Communications. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I'm Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Since joining the NJEDA, I've been struck by the incredible assets and resources that New Jersey has to offer. The NJEDA is working every day to grow New Jersey's economy in a way that maximizes the values of those assets to benefit every single New Jersey resident. This includes more support for small businesses and a focus on reclaiming New Jersey's position as a leader in the innovation economy. Visit njeda.com to learn more about how NJEDA is building a stronger and fairer New Jersey economy.